What is up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Odin coming back with a video, and today we've got the box office breakdown for this weekend, which saw The Batman coming in strong in its third week of release, once again taking the #1 spot domestically, but it also saw a very impressive showing domestically of a Crunchyroll anime picture, Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Now, I'm probably mispronouncing that in some way or another, but I do know that there are fans of anime, both on Geeks and Gamers and also even in my Asgardian community over at OMB Reviews, who have wanted me to talk about it. I will say, though, as a caveat, this is a film that has already been released in other countries, and so I'm not going to be able to do the typical predictions and projections for this film because of those types of releases, but I will definitely be up to date and keep up to date with how much money it makes domestically, and also if eventually they do release a production budget for the film, about whether the film has been able to make its money back or not. Before going any further into this, and also updates on other films, including new release X from this year, and also, of course, Spider-Man No Way Home getting very close to the $1.9 billion mark, and Uncharted continuing to make money. Please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching us over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification turned on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So as you can see here from Deadline, The Batman hits $300+ million domestically, while the Crunchyroll anime picture Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is a solid start with $17 million. This is as of this Sunday. Talking a little bit from the beginning of this article, it says, in a weekend without major studio-wide releases, Crunchyroll's anime prequel, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, is providing cash to exhibition. On Friday, including previews, the pick did $8.7 million. I'm informed another $5.4 million on Saturday for a solid 17.7 weekend in second place, which is 17% under the $21.2 million opening of Funimation's Demon Slayer last April. Box office analytics firm Intelligence reports that 1.3 million bought tickets to Jujutsu Kaisen versus Demon Slayer's first weekend, which drew 1.6 million. So as you can see, very close in the numbers there. So a very strong showing for this movie. And I was trying to look into this a little bit more, and based on just like very cursory looking into the actual series of Jujutsu Kaisen, apparently it is a show that is available to see on HBO Max. There's been one season, at least according to that, so it is interesting that this has been able to be pretty close, or at least to be within the running of a property like Demon Slayer from Funimation, which I believe had a couple of extra seasons in addition to the eventual film release there. And again, if I'm wrong on that, please feel free to correct me. I'm not an expert on anime by any means, but it is, I think, still very impressive for the domestic market, right, for the Western audiences, especially those in America and Canada, to be showing up in this way for this film. Again, these aren't gigantic numbers, but when you take into account the type of property that it is, I think it is definitely something worth talking about. It talks there, of course, about Warner Brothers' The Batman being #1 at the third weekend with $36.8 million, down 45%, which is a strong hold in its third week of release, sending its total to $300.1 million as far as the actual weekend is concerned. And here it gives you some comparisons to other Warner Brothers films. It says The Batman is the third best after The Dark Knight, which had a $42.6 million in its third weekend. Wonder Woman with $41.2. People love this movie. Just another $31 million, and The Batman will have passed 2015's Batman v Superman domestic box office of $330.3. And I do think that it is worth noting that that, of course, was pre-pandemic, and I think that anyone who still holds on to the Zack Snyderverse was the best ever, I think that the fact that this film, especially for a lot of people that don't like this film because of some of the things that happen within it, doing better than BVS, hopefully that maybe starts to wake up people's minds as to why BVS really isn't as great of a film that some people say it is. Again, that's just my own personal thought on that, and so I'm personally happy to see that. Despite the fact that I do think there are faults with the Batman, I still hold to my B+ rating for it, whereas for BVS, it just was not very good, in my opinion. Another $35 million until it clocks past Aquaman, which again, I think is a very impressive showing there. Friday for the Batman came out at $10.6 million, 43% down from the previous week. Worldwide, the Batman is 1.9 million shy of 600 million on that global haul. 47.6 was generated from IMAX hubs, breaking that further down 28.5 running from the United States. and then goes on to talk about some of the other metrics there. It also mentions A24's horror movie X did 1.77 million on Friday, taking fourth place with $4.4 million. Again, this is another A24 release. I will say, based on the description of it, doesn't seem like my kind of film, but hey, I guess it's doing okay. But just like with the other films I've mentioned, as far as the new releases this week, we don't have any production budgets, and unless I have a production budget, it's hard for me to say whether or not a film is doing well by comparison. If you look to the actual top 5, the Batman, of course, taking number 1, with Jujutsu Kaisen taking in number 2. So again, very impressive numbers there. Beating out Uncharted, which takes third place here. The movie X, brand new, comes in at number 4. And then topping out the top 5 is the movie Dog, which continues to hold with another 21% drop, while Spider-Man No Way Home also has a very strong 21% drop, still making $3.2 million. So as you can see, well on its way to crossing the $800 million mark by the end of the weekend, and probably even just, if not by the end of the weekend, then over the next few days. So a very, very strong showing for this film. And I think that a lot of these films, whether it is the Batman, whether it's Jujutsu Kaisen, whether it's even films like Uncharted and Spider-Man No Way Home, I think that this is just, again, destroying that pandemic narrative that was shoved down our throats for such a long period of time, because these are films that all cost a pretty decent amount of money, and they have been able to make those back. New films like The Outfit also coming out here. I don't know the budget for it. It has a pretty interesting cast, and I am actually genuinely interested in going to go see it. However, it's not available in a lot of theaters, and there is no budget, so it's hard to say whether or not the film is going to be a success or not. As you can see, The Batman is currently standing at around $600 million worldwide, so a very impressive showing there. It was able to pass up its break-even point of $500 million pretty easily over the last couple of days. And as you can see from what we have gathered from the international markets, it is 100 million past that at this point. So this film is making some pretty good profits after just a few weeks. I imagine that this will continue to grow, and it looks like this film is on pace to probably get into that $800 million range when everything is said and done, especially since this film does have a China release, where as of the last update from the numbers, which is always behind, it is reporting around $12.1 million there. So it's going to be interesting to see if China is actually able to be the number one movie, because typically for big budget films, China tends to be on top. Looks like this is a little bit behind. But again, these numbers are behind, so that very well could change. And it does remind us that of that 12.1 million being reported, at least at this point in time, 75% of that is going to the Chinese Communist Party, which means 75% of that is going to fund human rights violations. As we see, Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is up to $147.5 million worldwide. As I mentioned previously, this is going to be one where I'm not going to be able to make many projections on, because this 129.8 was already put into account because this has been released in other places. Obviously, Japan being the primary place of its release, making up $118 million of it. Taiwan, $7 million. Korea, or South Korea, $3.6 million. Singapore, $1.2. So not really all that available in various international markets, but 147.5 seems to be pretty impressive for this. I think that definitely seems to be one to look into. What I do think is something that is worth looking into, though, and I do like to do these things live because, hey, we like to do things live here on Geeks and Gamers. Let's see if we can get Demon Slayer up here. Probably not, because it's probably looking for the actual the actual name that's in Japanese. So hopefully there might be a thing here. No, maybe if I put in was it Gujin Train? Maybe not. All right, so can't do that, but that I think is going to be probably the best way to really have a metric of how successful this film really is, because I do think we got one for Demon Slayer, and I'll have to look into that. I'll have that probably broken down on my channel, OMB Reviews, where I plan to have a fuller box office breakdown when everything's said and done. X coming out here in the United States, here in the domestic marketplace, $4.4 million. Again, has an interesting cast with Brittany Snow. Haven't seen her in a lot of films more recently, but hey, it is what it is. No budget for this either. This was an independent film that got a lot of buzz, but the basic premise of it is one I'm not interested in. Dog up to $61.4 million. Spider-Man No Way Home up to 1.88, so very close to 1.9 billion. I think it's going to be able to squeeze that out over the next week or two. So I think that ending around $1.9 billion is going to be a very strong indication of just, one, the strength of the Sony property, right? Not just of the MCU, because the MCU really had very little to do with, I think, the success of this film. More people were going to see this film and excited about this film because of the older Spider-Man showing up and that cross-universe of those interactions, and really this redemption story that Andrew Garfield went through as an actor, as a Spider-Man. It was amazing that in my theater, I still remember this, he got the biggest pop as far as applause is concerned, and it wasn't because people liked him or preferred him necessarily to Tobey Maguire. I think it's just because he was the one that was the biggest question mark. Most people expected Tobey Maguire to show up, and they loved it when he did. And he gave one of the best performances in the film, but I think that most people still hold to, again, Andrew Garfield giving really the performance, the best performance out of everyone in that film, I think. And I think there is definitely a good reason to try, and especially now that this multiverse has been established, maybe pick up with the Amazing Spider-Man series and actually give a competent director and put that property into a competent director's hands and let Andrew Garfield have one last hurrah as the character, or show up in some other films. Death of the Nile continues to be a flop. The outfit, $1.5 million. Again, it looks interesting enough. I do like Mark Rylance in the film. I think that he's a phenomenal actor. Zoe Dutch, also a very phenomenal actress. And then you have Dylan O'Brien there, who I'm also a pretty big fan of, but not doing all that well, not available in all locations. So hopefully I'll be able to see this film as we start back fourth quarter. Can't believe fourth quarter, school's starting up just tomorrow. So hopefully I'll be able to actually catch this film while it is still available. Sing 2 continues to be around, almost at $100 million in net gain profit. Pretty impressive there. And then Uncharted, $300 million was the break-even number, up to 337. So doing quite well. This is another film that also got a China release. So out of the $10.4 million being reported here, 75% of that goes to fund human rights violations. Going to the charting, because again, we all like to do some charting. We like shots here. I have updated it with the newer films. I don't have the names there yet because, well, there's not really much else to say without any budgets on the films. But what we can say is with the Batman now at $598 million, it has made $58.8 million in net gain profit. So definitely a lot of, again, a very good showing there. Sony's Uncharted, $337 million, up to $22.3 in net gain profit. Dog has been very impressive, $14.3 million for a much lower budget film. Definitely impressive. Death of the Nile continues to be a financial loss and disaster. And going to the next film, and the last film to talk about, which of course I know a lot of people I know are both excited, and there are some that are definitely not. $1.884 billion means that right now the Spider-Man is at $830.7 million in net gain profit. So you take away the production budget, all the marketing costs, and that's just raw profit. So gonna be nearing $1 billion worth of profit. It's not gonna cross $1 billion, but still, $830 million. You're in that category, or you're in that territory of saying $1 billion in net gain profit. 75% of that profit is going to Sony, 25% to Disney. And even with that 25% of that massive number, still not enough to make up for the terrible year that Disney had at the box office as of last year. So anyway, those are the numbers. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be able to inch out to $1.9 billion? I definitely think that it is incredibly possible for it to do it even by next weekend, especially since it is still doing pretty well. Also, what are your thoughts about The Batman with $598 million? How much money do you think it's going to make by the end of its run? And also, are you surprised that this film, Jujutsu Kaisen, is doing as well as it is? Let me know. Do you think it's a show worth seeing? I know that one season, and I think and assume that's the only season, since they're on HBO Max, it says 2020 next to the season year, so it seems like a relatively new series. Is that a series worth getting into and checking out? Let me know. And also about any of the other newer films like The Outfit or X, also in the comment section down below. Also, go check out my channel, OMB Reviews. That way you can let me know over there as well. My website, ombReviews.com, if you want to check out those box office numbers. And, of course, having a update later on if I'm able to, little baby Thor is sleeping right now still. So if that continues, I can complete that video over there. With more information, hopefully going into Jujutsu Kaisen and some of the other films that I have mentioned. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about that. Anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Not that fire button over on Odyssey. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Blessed Sunday, blessed Lent. And as always, God bless.